Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Bone from Let's Music Talk here on YouTube and letsmusictalk.com. One of the most asked questions I get is how do I get my drums to sound perfect within the mix every time? Although that might sound a little bit subjective. Anyways, no matter what today, I can show you some excellent tips and tricks minus a ton of music theory so that by the end of this tutorial, you can be king or queen of your own drums, or sort of. Years ago, even getting my own drums to sound excellent every single time was a struggle. That perfect harmony and mix and blend of all the drums and no awkwardness or weirdness where you're just like, I don't really like that sound. So in your own journey of drums, whether you have too much of a low end, muddiness, snare sounds out of place, or the kick sounds like a bouncing basketball in a closet, having cohesion, harmony in a drum mix deserves your extra attention starting today. So let's start off this mix by listening to the song that I have about 80% of the composition done just before the final, or just before we start the mixing process. So let's give a listen the first 30 to 45 seconds. The most important process for me while starting this mix, especially with the drums, is having a plan for your drums. And that's when we get into those 3 quick tips that you can use yourself. With number 1, finding the note value of your drums. And number 1 and number 2 kind of go hand in hand. Also, what kind of drum hit? Is it a sustained or a non-sustained drum hit? When it comes to like an 808, that has a longer note and tone. So having that in perfect tune with the actual key of your song is going to become important, because you're either going to, however you play out your drums, like most 80% of the time is at the root. And then if you have like a melodic 808 pattern, it's probably going to bounce around from the triads, from, you know, perfect fifth to third. And then having notes that are outside the key also gives you a different variety. And number 3 of my quick tips is the 3 W's for me, which is where, when, or what. Where in the mix do you want your drums present? Is it the lead, up the middle, like a kick or an 808 or a snare? Or is it a supporting drum like a tom or percussion off to the side that can be pan left, right, with a little bit of reverb or delay? Next is, when do you want the drums to hit? Does it sound good? Does it create a rhythm, a vibe? Do you have that variety factor throughout the song? Does it complement the vocals? Finally, what kind of mix? Does it need to be EQ? Does it fit well with the other drums? Does it need to be compressed? Can you add saturation, distortion? We're gonna take a listen to this 808. So I'm just gonna do all the drums here. This 808 was in the scale of, in the note of C. So I had to pitch it up 100 cents to get C sharp. Now every DAW should have some kind of tuner like this where it can find the note value of a mono instrument signal, bass, kick, drum, whatever the case may be. So for your DAW, just find out where that built-in stock plugin that you have in there, and then find the note value. To take it a step further in FL Studio, we actually can right click and then go into the audio editor and then detect the pitch regions. The problem with that is that, especially with 808s, there's more than one note value. And so what the listener hears is the average. the average of it. So maybe the initial transient is at C, the note value somewhere else is E. So it's the average of what the human ears hear. And you also can measure it like that too. You can actually put average. So this is tuned to the root note of C sharp, which is the key of this song. And I'm not sure if you can hear that rhythm hi-hat. Since this is an R&B trap beat song, the hi-hats are on the lower. It kind of creates the rhythm. It's in the background more versus like, let's just say a trap beat where the hi-hat is super present up in the lead. It's almost like used as a melodic instrument. What kind of mix? Now, as you can see on this track, I just did a little bit of EQ. I just rolled off a little bit off the low end. I use this free plugin by Somatics, Diablo Light. Then I use this saturation distortion plugin by KEHLANI, and then that's it. Not a lot that I do because my sample to begin with is a great sample that I helped design myself. Now, I'm not sure if you have an 808 or any kind of sound design plugins on your DAW, and if you're interested in making your own 808s or downloading some free 808s from me, I will have a trap pack coming out with free 808s for everybody. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe. Next, let's move on to the snares and the claps. We're gonna focus on that. We'll just take off the 808 and the kick for now. So the perk that's in there, I pitched it down. I thought it was too bright. So there's really not a note value to it. So I just went with, in the mix of playing, how did it sound to me? And I just felt like it was too bright. So I just made it a little bit darker. The shaker, I kept the same. I EQ'd it just a little bit before I even get to the mixing stage. The snare, I pitched it up 100 cents. That was what I felt, in my opinion, made the mix sound better. So I just wanted it a little bit brighter. And the same thing goes for the clap. I pitched it up just a little bit. Now, none of these things really held a note value other than the kick at the end of my mix. I pitched it down a little bit because I wanted more subby bass. I used this Max Bass plugin by Waves. It definitely gave me a more boomier, subbier, basser kick, if that's even a word. And then once again, does it sound good in the mix? I know in music we tried not to set any rules, but there are rules of tendencies of especially genre-specific music of what is the norm to what the human ear is used to listening to. So this is that kick. And I just shaped my kick and used these plugins. Like I said, the Max Mono gave me the sub. The shaper box gave me a little bit more saturation. The virtual mix rack, these two EQs by Slate Digital. I love the tone and it gave me more low end definition. And these two EQs were just great, light compression. And then I trimmed it back. It was a little bit too heavy. I EQ'd it out the door just a little bit. Now I added this EQ to show you guys. Now, let's say on the kick or the 808, you have too much stereo information in the low end. So usually people try to make sure there's no stereo information from 150 hertz to 200 hertz down. Instead of boggling your mind and saying, what's going on? It just sounds too heavy. It's too muddiness. There's no clarity in this whole song. You probably have too much built up energy in the low end. And so a good thing to do is on your drum bus to slap a plugin like Infinity EQ, where you can do a mid-side EQ and you just take all the side information. And that's what I did here for this tutorial to show you. Even though my low end is perfect going into my mix. So pre-mix, everything sounds great. All right, so finally, I'm going to play the song through. This is the end of this tutorial, but if you're interested in learning more tips on mixing, parallel processing, mastering, adding layers, melodies, beat song arrangement, then be sure to follow. We're gonna take this exact song all the way through the whole mixing process to mastering until where I send it out to DistroKid. Finally, before we leave, another great thing to get into is placing vocals, or you adding your own scratch vocals onto your beat so you can find where you envision the artist to be. A good place to go is like Splice, where you can literally have vocal hooks, even whole verses, and all of their samples are free for you to use. Actually publish them as they are to your, to distribute them out, and you can claim them as your own. For better use is to actually take those vocals and put them on your track and listen to it and see how you could envision that artist. And if you actually do, spit or whatever the case may be, add that scratch vocal onto your beat and hear out where it fits out in the mix. All right, I don't want to bore you guys too much longer, so let's just play the song out. You guys have a good one, and peace.